going on, guys? I hope you're having a cinematastic day, and I'm going to be finally making a video. I came up all the way back in March of ranking all 6 of my best friends' movies from the worst to the best, and this is actually just a select few of my friends that I chose to give me their movies. There's 6 of them, and I'll be going throughout the video. You see them in the thumbnail as well, but in a separate video, I'll be ranking so many of my fans' favorite movies from the worst to the best. So if you want to participate and be one of the possible fans that I include in that ranking, make sure to comment down below your favorite movie. And of course, it's going to be controversial. I can't have a favorite movie that is everyone else's. Everyone has their own opinion, so be respectful, especially in this one, because this is not covering the best movies of all time. It's covering our personal favorites, the one that connects to us most for one reason or the other. So without further ado, let's get into the 6 movies that my friends have given me that are their favorites. I mean, in that last place, we have The Little Mermaid from Emily, one of my friends. And this one actually doesn't quite as well work for me. It's still a decent, good movie, but I find some of the tropes and directions they take with it are kind of either cliche or just don't work. And overall, this movie didn't thrill me as I just go throughout it, and even upon the rewatch, it just doesn't quite work as well for me. For whatever reason, the character development doesn't feel as authentic. The direction the story takes, the villain the villain is memorable, but her powers seem sort of twisted. It could be a lot more powerful than it should be, and also just some of the characters just don't blend together. I'm just not a personal fan of this movie, though I still think it's a good technical story. It's just not one of my favorites at all. Coming in at number 5, we have The Last Unicorn, and this is an 80s classic, and I remember watching this way back in my childhood. I haven't rewatched it a whole lot since, so it was nice to revisit it, and it still holds up as a decent, good movie that is really good for its time. Actually, with its animation, it's quite a bit different story with this human that has turned into a unicorn, and she has to find out where all the other unicorns are, because there's suddenly not very much peace in the land. There's witches. It's just a fantastical fantasy movie that is just has a lot of different surprises that are very subtle to its genre, but are also very expressive in the way it tells its story. And it is a little bit of a slow burn of a movie, so I can see it's not for everyone. But still, as you get into the story, how it explores the fantasy elements, I definitely really enjoy this one. Coming in at number 4, we have from my friend Jonah, Source Code, and this is actually a first time viewing I had, and it was really fun. It had an excellent idea on exploring this sort of extravagant idea where you just get all of this survival in what you're trying to do, and there's just a lot of twists where I can't tell too much about the story, but it sort of repeats itself in certain story marks. And Jake Gyllenhaal in this role was really good. He had some funny moments, some iconic movie moments that are definitely sticking with me and with the rest of the movie community if you watch this. And it's just an interesting idea implemented really well into this movie genre. And while it's not perfect, it still sort of has a little bit of a slow burn like the last movie I mentioned. It does feel it gives its idea off just enough that makes it a really good movie. And before I get into my top 3 movies, make sure to comment down below, like I said, your favorite movies of all time, or your favorite movie, and do a hashtag enter me if you want to be given a chance to be in the next video. And maybe I'll even make a part 2 to these videos for more movies from my friends that are their favorites, and more movies that are your favorites. Just like this video, let me know all that down in the comments below. And in my top 3, we have Titan AE, and this was a first time viewing from Ben that suggested this. I really, really enjoyed this. This was probably the biggest surprise to me of this whole list, and it just implemented so many different story elements that I didn't expect from this science fiction animation genre. And it just has so many deep elements within its story. The loss of his father, Kale is such a memorable character and a deeply implemented character, and all the characters around him just work so well, and it has a couple twists, and it has some world building that actually works in creating its own world and its own outer space. And just the idea of like sort of abandoned civilization, you're going into more of this robot and AI sort of technology. Robots are replacing humans, and so just the whole general story is one that makes me have this as one of, it's not one of my favorite movies, but it's one that I definitely noticed that not a ton of people have explored it, and so it's going to be one of those movies that I recommend to people, a go-to recommendation if you haven't watched it. Coming in at number 2, we have Coco, and this is also Brandon's favorite. This is one of my favorite Pixar movies of all time, so it's of course going to be near the top of this list, but it's not at number 1. We'll get to that in a moment. Coco is just a really pleasant surprise from Pixar. I've always been really heartwarmed by this movie. Just the message, the music, and everything. The animation is so beautiful and well crafted. It's really just a piece of art in cinema. It's one of a masterpiece. Just how everything, all the ideas are implemented together. This boy wanting to give up his shoe business that is his family tradition. The family's trying to make him go into the shoemaking business, but he just wants to go back into the traditional family aspect that his uncle did of playing the guitar and singing, and just the way it's all crafted, the twists, the heartbreaking moments, and everything in between. But coming in at number 1, we have Baby Driver. And this was a first time viewing, and this is almost the ideal image of what I wanted to start creating from this series. Is that I always have a ton of movies I haven't watched. I have a ton of recommendations, so I can't always get to them, especially as I just can enjoy rewatching movies I watched before. But Baby Driver, leading up to getting this franchise, or getting these movies watched so I could make this ranking, Baby Driver was a massive surprise. I knew it was well loved among community and movie fans, but I didn't expect it to be so high up. That I absolutely love it. The action, the music score, one of my favorite of all time. It was thrilling, it was emotional, the characters were well blended and well crafted. It was hilarious in so many moments. It was tense, and just the rated R part of it really brought some brutality that didn't make it too explicit, but it had all the right notes to make a really fantastic movie. Edgar Wright really crafted a masterpiece. Kendell had this fantastic recommendation for me as his favorite of all time, and now it's become one of my favorite movies of all time, and that's what puts Baby Driver at number 1. But these were just my rankings of all of these films. Be sure to leave your favorite movie if you want to be put into the next video of the favorite movies from my fans ranked, and I'll be sure to implement your suggestions, your comments, and maybe I'll even continue this series into a part 2, part 3, maybe, if there keeps being more demand for it. Let me know all of that down in comments below. Let me know what you think of the start of the series, and I'll be back for more movie reviews, rankings, and more.